Hello, well today I'm talking to Raj Beadle, who's Managing Director of Gaggia UK, regarding the brand, and I'll get straight to the point. Just how big is the Gaggia brand?
Gaggia brand is large in the coffee industry. Anyone who is serious about coffee would know the brand Gaggia because it was one of the first brands of coffee or coffee machines that came into the market 87 years ago. So it's well known as a brand in coffee, but it is known, not just as a brand for coffee, but Gaggia is in the sort of super brand category. We had Gaggia in the super brand book, and also it is quite an iconic brand. It's not just a super brand, but it is also a cool brand.
Yes.
And we had Gaggia as a cool brand in the cool brand leader book. So that shows the strength of the brand.
And if I understand it right, that's up again, up with the likes of Aston Martin and Chanel and Royal Dalton and Bang & Olufsen and Jaguar Cars and Lambretta and
That's
Vespa
right.
and Moët, and you can go on with these really top companies.
Absolutely.
And Gaggia's right up there with them.
That's right. So people consider that as a very iconic brand, like those brands that you're talking about. So it's a fantastic brand to have, to be a brand guardian in the UK for Gaggia. It is an honour to be.
Good, excellent.
Yes.
And the Gaggia name, of course, seems to have been around forever. You mentioned 87 years, but when did the company actually start and why?
Gaggia, the name Gaggia came from the name of the founder, Achille Gaggia, and he was a bartender, but he was also an inventor, and he was trying to improve the coffee in the 30s, Milan. So Milan was, quite big in coffee, but the coffee that they drank was from a boiler. There were quite a lot of machines available at the time, but they were all from a boiler, and you're brewing the coffee at a very high temperature. So it came as a bitter coffee, not creamy as we know it now. What Gaggia did was he used a system which actually comes from an American Jeep, a piston and a lever, to draw the water from a boiler or through hot water, like a heat exchange system, which takes the water through the coffee at a slightly lower temperature. What he found was that it was nice and creamy. And it was like, the nectar that we talk about these days. It was nice and creamy. And that became an instant success. And he then incorporated those into all the different machines.
Excellent.
So that was the invention. The patents were in 1938.
Right, but it was really after the war that things really started to take off for him.
That's right. So between 1938 and 1948, nothing really serious would have happened. And Gaggia made their first machine in 1948-49. We have what is called the American model with two levers and pistons, and we still have it in our showroom, and they are used in London and various other countries, even now in bars. If you go to some of the places in London, they are now bringing those back into cafes.
Well, they're just so iconic and they're just so stylish, and they just capture a different era and time, and I suppose there's a great nostalgia thing about those, and it's a magnificent machine that you've got here. And then of course that's great for cafes and restaurants, but people want to have a coffee at home, and again I think Gaggia were pioneers at that.
Yes, that's right. I mean, as you say, they predominantly were in cafes, and soon after the war it was very popular to go to a coffee bar and have a coffee and meet with people, and in the West End it became more and more popular. So it is something that you can see films with Gaggia machines in the 50s. So the brand was known by people who went to cafes. It was in 1952 that Gaggia decided to bring out a domestic machine, a lever domestic machine. So it had two levers.
Yep.
It was popularized by the film by Rita Hayworth, and it was called the Gilda, or Gilda as somebody may call it. I call it Gilda, and that was the first home machine that was launched by Gaggia.
So always glamorous Gaggia, you know, even then using one of the most iconic actresses at the time, Rita Hayworth.
Yeah.
And it was a 1946 film that she was in, as you mentioned. So that really did, I suppose, capture the imagination. But then, moving on, we get to the eventually to the 1970s, which was a time of vividly coloured purple, green, yellow sofas and soft furnishings with wallpaper with horrendous patterns that some of us remember and made us feel quite nauseous just to look at them. And of course, Gaggia tapped right into that.
That's right. That they made what we now call a lobster red. It's an orange machine, a completely metal-bodied machine, and that was the first time they brought in an electric pump into the machine as well. So instead of a lever, you were using a pump to pump water through the coffee at the right temperature. So that was called the Baby, 1977. So that's 47 years ago
Time
this
flies.
year. Yes, that's right. So, and those machines are still available by, people use them. I have one in our showroom. So if anybody wants to come and have a look at it, they can come to our showroom, and we have some of the old models, 1950 the lever machine, the original lever machine. We have got the 1957 model as well. And also on the home front, we have got the 1947 model. And then I have machines that were given to me by a chap called John Callum. He actually bought every machine that Gaggia brought out.
Or a collector.
Yes. And when he passed away, sadly, a few years ago, he gave me all his machines. And I actually have put a new pump on one of the 26-year-old Baby Gaggias, and it works like a dream. It is fantastic. So it's still, I think a lot of people are still using them.
Yes, yeah. So, and the styles really continue with Gaggia, isn't it, right up to today?
It does. They have a motto called, it says, continuously evolving tradition. Always think of that as they go on to the next model and the next model, even in automatic machines.
Yes, and right up to today, you've brought out a new model for autumn 2024.
That's
Tell us
right.
a little bit about that.
Yes, a few new models actually, but we now make traditional machines like the Baby. Now it's called the Classic. It was introduced 33 years ago, in fact. And we are still evolving, bringing new models in, and even in the next year we will be bringing prosumer machines and such like. But the one that you are talking about is called the Moonlight Grey, and that is to celebrate 25 years of automatic machines by Gaggia. So automatic machines were introduced in 1999, and I actually used the first model that came until about a year ago. In fact, I sent out a newsletter recently to people saying that we are celebrating 25 years, and there were a few people who called me back to say that they are still using that machine.
Wow.
And one of them actually sent me one of the machines that they had. So I'm looking forward to using that machine, because it's so difficult to find those machines now. So 25 years, people are sort of continuing to use that.
And it's also coincidentally 55 years since the moon landing, hence the
That's
Moonlight
right.
Grey, a double celebration. Really.
That's right. So it's a Moonlight Grey on two of the top models. We are bringing out that body
Yeah.
in moonlight grey, but also it has got a new feature on it. So it's the most modern
Yeah.
feature. It is called the on ice feature. So it sort of mimics a cold brew.
Yeah.
So it produces a coffee that is slightly lower in temperature and also brewed slowly. So it's not a cold brew as you know it, but it is called on ice, and it sort of replicates that.
Okay, well, many thanks, Raj. On brand as always. Thank you.
Thank you.